Now, from CBS 4 News, this is Facing South Florida with Jim DeFede.
Good morning, I'm Jim DeFede, and welcome to Facing South Florida. I hope you had a joyful Thanksgiving. Our guest this morning is Senator Marco Rubio. We will be covering a number of topics, from tax reform to the impact Hurricane Irma is having on Florida, the impact Hurricane Maria had on Puerto Rico, as well as a wave of sexual harassment allegations that have roiled Hollywood, Washington, and the media. But we start with the president's announcement that he will end temporary protected status for nearly 60,000 Haitians, telling them, in essence, they have 18 months to leave the United States or they will be rounded up and deported. Senator, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
I know you were opposed to this idea. You had spoken out and said that temporary protected status should be extended.
Yes.
What happened?
Well, the good news is it's extended for 18 months. The bad news is they've announced their intent to end it at the end of the 18 months. So I think we need to work on now is ensuring that beyond that 18-month period it gets extended. They can always go back and add further extensions to it. But an 18-month is better than a 6-month because it gives us time to make that advocacy. My argument has been twofold. One, it is temporary, right? Temporary protective status. So we either need to figure out a way to make it permanent and say at this point they've been here so long we're going to allow people to, because they're not here illegally, or you need to figure out a way to end it that's responsible, which I don't think would work. For two reasons. The first is, after that long period of time in this country, legally and working, the roots these people have laid in our community are too deep to lift, and in fact would be damaging to Miami-Dade County as an example, where so many of them now live. Some have started businesses, their kids are well into school, and to suddenly tell them to leave would be very disruptive, not just to them, but to their employers, even to their employees. And it's a great community, by the way, which is the argument I've always made. The second is it would be difficult for Haiti to absorb that many people, even a quarter of those people. Haiti's already losing the UN peacekeeping, security forces. They're facing a series of other challenges. To, on top of that, force in 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people. It would be catastrophic for Haiti.
So just as I recall, the temporary protected status was following the earthquake,
correct,
which decimated. And then you were followed by, also the island has been hit with hurricanes, and also had an outbreak of cholera by UN peacekeepers that actually brought the cholera into Haiti. So they've had continuing problems. It's not as if it was just the one issue with the earthquake several years ago, 7 years ago. It's what's happening today.
But even without that, I think you can look at Haiti's history spread in the last 30, 40 years. There's never been a time of stability and prosperity. It's been challenged the entire period of time. And so our view on it is twofold. First of all, temporary protective status was put in as a humanitarian measure, but it was also put in as a practical one, because the notion and the reality is that every time Haiti has faced significant challenges of a humanitarian or economic or security nature, it has led to an upsurge in illegal migration.
So who's forcing this, though? I mean, why is the president doing this?
Well, I think there's a view that temporary protective status is temporary, and at some point when the rationale for the temporary status is gone, earthquake or what have you, so too should the status that was granted. This is a temporary measure, and you don't want to create the precedent for these to become permanent. And I think that's a great policy for the future, but we have to deal with the reality, and the practical reality is there are now 60,000 human beings, many of whom have lived in this country for over a decade, some of whom have had kids that came here at 8 and are now 18, enrolled in college. Some have started businesses. We know them. They're our neighbors, and here in our community, to uproot them would be disruptive to Miami-Dade County and Florida, but would be deeply.
So you're going to work on trying to have that extended further?
Yeah, I mean, there's two ways to do it. One is legislatively. I don't know if we have the votes to do that, and the other is to have the administration extend it. I think John Kelly understands this issue very well, and I would hope that he would be an advocate for extending it beyond the 18 months.
Let's move on. I want to move on to the Alabama Senate race.
Yes.
Do you support Roy Moore?
I never endorsed Roy Moore. I've never met him. I only know him by reputation and by press clipping. Obviously, at this point, I'm not going to, given everything that's been revealed. I find the accusations against him to be incredibly credible. I don't think anything he's done or said in the last 2 weeks has been convincing or effective. And as I said, at this point, there's nothing legally that can be done to remove him from the ballot. That's a decision he would get to make. I do anticipate that if he's elected to the Senate, he will find himself immediately in an ethics situation or some other hearing where perhaps even more will be revealed. And at that point, we'll have to make a decision.
I want to play one piece of sound. This is the governor of Alabama, Kay Ivey, speaking recently, saying why she's going to vote for Roy Moore.
I certainly have no reason to disbelieve any of them. The timing is a little curious, but at the same time, I have no reason to disbelieve them. But at the same time, the United States Senate needs to have, in my opinion, a majority of Republican votes to carry the day in when they have to consider other major decisions. So that's a factor as well.
So she said she's going to vote for Roy Moore. The president, we're taping this on Wednesday, the president on Tuesday came out and all but endorsed Roy Moore, saying we do not need a liberal Democrat in that seat. Is this what the Republican Party come to? Is this the nature of our politics, that it's better to have an accused child molester than a Democrat in the Senate?
I mean, that's a difficult question that's facing people in Alabama who have to cast this vote, and that's what we need to remember here, and that is he's not been elected yet. He still has to go through an election. Ultimately, the people of Alabama are going to get to vote, and they'll have to make that decision the way you've outlined it now. I don't think it's a reflection of the Republican Party. I think, if you recall, Roy Moore had a primary, and a spirited one, in which a current U.S. senator that was appointed by the governor lost in that primary. So ultimately, the voters of Alabama are going to choose. They're going to have all this information before them, and they're going to have to make a decision about which direction they're going to go. I can only opine about my views of what has happened up to this point and what I think might happen if, in fact, he wins the election, which, by the way, is not guaranteed. I mean, it's no given. I don't know what public polling says about it, but my sense is the last few weeks haven't helped him.
But if Roy Moore were elected, you don't believe that that will do damage to the Republican Party?
Potentially. And again, but that wouldn't be the reason why he would have to undergo an ethics hearing in the Senate. I think the fundamental question for the Senate is we ultimately are the ultimate judge of the qualifications of the people before us, and there's a procedure in the Senate by which someone, even elected, can be brought forth and go through this sort of censure and removal proceedings, and that's an evidentiary process. I mean, there'll be witnesses, sworn testimony. Perhaps we'll learn even more one way or the other about it at that point, if it comes to that. And so, you know, at that point, I'd make my decisions based on what comes out of that process.
Should Al Franken resign or be expelled?
That he's going to go through the same process as well. And I think the accusations against him, including many of which he's admitted, are horrifying. But at this point, he's going to be before the ethics committee. And I would say, in fairness, he has, although for the things he's already admitted to, I find to be outrageous and offensive. And I do think just on that alone, he should consider resigning. But he's going to go through the same process, and there's going to be evidence and testimony, and I think he'll have to make a decision based on that, and we may end up voting on that.
Look, take Al Franken out of it. Is groping a woman's butt, is that grounds for expulsion from the Senate?
I believe it is, and especially if during your Senate term. But now we're saying that even before you served in the Senate, there's evidence that you did that in the past, that potentially that's something we could expel you for. And look, everything that's happening now is an important conversation that's long overdue. And in our country about what's appropriate.
Talk to me more about that. What is this moment that we're in right now?
I think it's a moment of reckoning. A lot of this has been occurring for a long period of time and for a variety of different reasons. It never came forward. Sometimes people were afraid to come forward. They thought it would set back their career and no one would believe them, or they didn't want to go through the agony of the public scrutiny that comes with some of that. I think some of it is attitudinal. Even to this day, you see people who say or do things potentially, not do, I've never seen them do, but certainly say things that you find to be offensive. And
do you see it in Washington?
I haven't personally seen it, but I've certainly read the accounts and of people that have undergone it. And again, this is usually not one of those things you do in front of a crowd of 100 people, although in some cases it sounds like they have. But I always found it to be inappropriate, and that someone sitting in the United States Senate would be conducting themselves in this way with impunity, even if it happened, before they were a member of the Senate.
Do you think that it is appropriate for either the House or the Senate to settle cases with taxpayer dollars of sexual harassment and then to keep them, basically confidential?
I don't. And now, I think the rationale that they use for that is if they enter into an agreement where the accuser doesn't want to be publicly revealed, they don't want people to know that this happened to them, that may be one of the cases. But it certainly doesn't look very good to do that. And I think if a member of Congress is facing an accusation of this kind and the accusation is credible, and a lot of people say, well, what do you mean? You can just put any accusation out there. Usually when someone accuses you of something and it isn't true or it's not credible, at some point there'll be some inconsistency in the story that will reveal you made it up. In this case, you have people admitting it. And admitting it and entering into settlements because they admitted it. I don't think that's good public policy, to have members of Congress with taxpayer dollars paying out settlements to keep quiet that something occurred. Voters that back home deserve to know that.
I know you're the father of daughters. I know that your daughters were also involved in your campaign. They got politically engaged during the presidential race. Do you have these conversations with them? Do they come and talk to you about this?
My oldest
what are they telling
is almost
you?
an adult now. She's a few months away from that. And I think for their generation, administration, the world will hopefully be very different in terms of what's acceptable. And I don't mean to say this is a generational thing, but in some ways, potentially it is. My sense is that 30 or 40 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, there were things that people thought were just things that men did. That isn't what real men do. But somehow we had this model of what being a real man was that excused some of this. And you see that around the world still in many places. So I think this is an important moment, especially if we expect, I have the same hopes and dreams and aspirations for my daughters as I do for my sons that are younger than them. And one of the things that could potentially hold them back is a society that treats them differently in terms of what's appropriate behavior towards them. And so in a way, I'm glad we're having this conversation now. I hope it'll be a turning point in society. And it's one of the things America has always been able to do is have, public discourse about key issues like this and become better for it.
All right, Marco Rubio, let's take a break. When we come back, let's talk about, I know you've got a very interesting proposal within the tax plan on child tax credits. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about a number of other things when we come back with Senator Marco Rubio.